What's up, everybody? I'm Tim from Timber Ridge Gifts. So lately on my channel, I've had a lot of people ask me about my cleanup process. It's kind of something I do every day. To be honest with you, I take it for granted. But I've had enough people ask me that I'm decided to go ahead and do a real quick short video just to show you my cleanup process. You'll see some stuff later on in the video that we're going to use in the cleanup process. But at a bare minimum, we're going to need three basic things. We're going to need a heat gun, some rubbing alcohol, and some paper towels. So let's go ahead and get everything set up and I'll show you how I do it. Let's say we finished pouring. We inevitably didn't use all of the wax that we melted. So we've got just a tiny bit of wax left in the bottom of our pouring pitcher. This is going to be the start of my cleanup process. First is deciding what to do with all the extra wax that's in there. I'll say this again later on in the video, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now. None of this goes down the drain. Even your plant or vegetable based waxes that do clean up with soap and water, they're still going to clog your drains. It may seem like it's working at the time, but gradually over the years that's going to build up in your pipes. It's going to get caught in your S-trap and you're going to have problems down the road. So none of this goes down the drain. But what to do with what's left in there? And a couple different things that you can do. If it's something that I've been making that I like, I want to use later on in my house, what I'll do is I'll take my wax melt container and I'll just go ahead and make myself a free wax melt, and I can use that later on in my wax burners. Or if I want to get really creative, I can take just a random mold that I have, go ahead and fill up a few cavities. Don't have to have a plan for what I'm going to do with them at the time. I can just let those dry, pop them out, put them in a baggie. Maybe over time, if I've got enough of them, I can just put together a nice little gift bag for somebody. Or another neat little idea, I always like to keep a larger container put together with a wick in it. So that way when I get done pouring, and I've got a little bit left over, I can just add it to this candle. After a while, you're going to have this huge rainbow candle filled with 30, 40 different scents. Probably nothing you could sell or wouldn't be really good for much, but it's kind of a neat thing. Might make a neat gift idea or nice conversation piece. Okay, so we've got as much wax as we can out of our pouring pitchers. Now, if you don't get to this step or you're not able to, and you end up leaving a lot of wax in there and it dries, not a big deal. We can clear that up in the next step. Just taking care of this step now makes the next step a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and get set up for the next step. Okay, so for this next part, you're going to need to break out your cooling racks. You can use pretty much any kind. You don't necessarily have to have this, but it works a lot easier. You can just take maybe a couple jars and set your pouring pitcher just where it's elevated. But to simplify things, we're going to use the cooling racks. I actually prefer this one just because it's got less surface area, but these are actually higher, so we're going to use these for the video. So basically explain what we're going to do here. Basically, we're just going to take our pouring pitchers, we're just going to turn them upside down, and we're going to hit them with our heat gun. We do need to put something underneath it to catch all the wax that's going to drip out. This is where your paper towels are going to come in handy. Just going to layer it underneath it. Now, if you do want to be a little conscious about your paper waste, you can use just any type of disposable container. This is just a aluminum roasting pan. We're just going to slide that under this one. Okay, now we're just basically going to take our pouring pitcher and turn it upside down on the cooling rack. Each container, I've melted a different kind of wax in here. This one is paraffin. This one is palm. We've got some beeswax and good old soy. Just to show you that this process works with any type of wax that you're going to be using. You can already see with the soy, some's already melting out. So now we're just going to hit it with our heat gun. These things can take a lot of heat. You don't want to get it glowing red hot. Just enough heat to where it's going to melt everything inside, warm enough that it's going to travel down the sides and drip all the way out. You might have to repeat this a couple times, but it works great. You do want to be mindful that it does have a plastic handle on it, so you don't want to get it too hot or get too close to that handle and end up ruining your pouring pitcher. But basically, we're just going to get it hot and let all that wax melt out. so we've gotten quite a bit of wax out using the heat gun. We're going to set it off to the side for now. Now while this is still warm, we're going to go and get our paper towels. Just to protect yourself, you might want to use an old oven mitt. So now we're just going to take our paper towels, just wipe them out really good. Okay, and that's gotten probably 98% of the wax out. You may not be able to see it on the video. It looks fairly clean. This was a yellow wax. There's still a bit of a slight film in there. So to take care of that, use our rubbing alcohol. This stuff is fairly expensive. You can buy the Walmart brand. Container this size, I think, was $1.50. So we're just going to dump a little bit of rubbing alcohol in there. Get our paper towels. Just clean all that around. And we're done. This is perfectly clean. Soy wax is really easy using this method. With other waxes, you might have to go through the first steps once or twice. You know, if you're to the alcohol step and you notice that it's starting to get a film that you can still see the color or starting to haze up on you, you may need to hit it with the heat gun again, but usually after 1 or 2 tries with the heat gun and the paper towels, these are perfectly clean, ready to put up and be used again with your next project. Let's move on to the next thing. Okay, let's get back to these. A lot of people are probably going to ask me in the comments why I didn't initially take a paper towel and try to clean out as much as I could before I put it over in the cooling rack. I could have, but I still would have had to put it on the cooling rack and let that all drain out. So to hit it with a paper towel beforehand would have really just been a waste of paper towel, since I've got to heat it up and let everything pour out anyway. Might as well just leave it in there, let it take care of itself in the next step. Let's move on to our next dirty piece of equipment. You're going to have whatever you use to measure your fragrance oil in. I like to use just these glass measuring cups. Now the temptation is going to be there to wash these in the sink as well. You could probably get away with it, but depending on what type of fragrance oil you're using, it may not be something that you want to go down the drain. So we can clean these up in our shop without ever having to go to the sink, just by using basically the same steps. We're just going to take our paper towels, just clean out as much as we can. A little bit of rubbing alcohol. And that's ready to be put up and used till our next project. Next, we're going to have whatever we use to stir our wax with. These are really simple. They're just kitchen skewers or kebab skewers. I like to use these just because there's not a lot of surface area. So when it does come time for cleanup, it's really simple. Basically, I'll just take one of the old paper towels that I've been using. They just wipe right off. Okay. Let's move on to something that we haven't seen yet. Some of you may actually be using plastic pouring pitchers. I use these a lot when I'm making my wax melts or something that I need to be a little bit more precise with. It's got the funnel pitcher on it. These work great, but they are a bit different to clean. Obviously, you can't put this on the cooling rack and take a heat gun to it because it's made out of plastic. Cleanup's still pretty simple though. Best to get these while the wax is completely melted. You can just get in there with your paper towels, wipe up as much as you can, hit it with the rubbing alcohol. That usually gets it great. If there's still a little bit of residue in it, you can take a little bit of soap and water, wash it out real good, just take it outside and dump it. That keeps it out of your pipes. Most everything we use in the candle shop, especially with my plant and vegetable based waxes, is biodegradable, so you're not really going to hurt anything by dumping it outside. Again, that's something you definitely don't want in your drain though, because over time it will clog it up. Okay, that's pretty much it. We'll just move on to the last step, and that's going to be our work area, because if you're anything like me, you're going to spill things. And there you have it, the dreaded spill. Cleanup on this is going to be really easy. All I'm going to do is just take a paint scraper. I'm using a metal one just because I'm on my work surface. I don't really care if it gets scratched. But if you're in your kitchen, maybe on your countertops, a more delicate surface, they do make plastic ones that you can use. They work just as well. Really all we're going to do is just scrape up that excess wax. This can either go in the garbage or in one of the earlier things, maybe in that bigger candle that I showed you. Now just a little bit more of the rubbing alcohol. Our paper towels. And it looks just like we did before we started. There you go. And that's my cleanup process. Pretty short and sweet. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've got something different that you do, feel free to leave that in the comments. We can always learn from each other. For those of you that aren't subscribed to my channel, please make sure that you do. And stay tuned for the next video. Thanks, y'all.